I'm Rachel Bennett and we're coming to you from the Bottle Yard in Bristol.
I'm Michael Caswell and I'm lucky enough to work as a freelance guitar player.
In Strung Up and Loaded, I'll be tracking down great guitarists like Nile Rodgers, Keith Richards, B.B. King, and together we'll uncover their secrets.
Have you ever wanted to impress your friends by picking up a guitar and playing like a rock star? We'll be meeting up with the greatest guitar artists from rock to classical. And also the artisans that build and customize the most popular musical instrument in the world.
I've got one here for you.
Oh, that's my guitar!
Jimmy Page on Led Zeppelin 1.
Up to A string, 7th fret.
A fantastic time to be writing about music.
My name's Paul Trinker, I'm a writer, I've written a lot about guitars and I've just published a book on David Bowie called Starman. I wrote the book really because I'd done a biography of Iggy Pop and spent a lot of time researching the period when he lived with David in Berlin. It's a really interesting time and I looked through all the Bowie books and couldn't find one that really told me about what they did every day, what it was like. So that planted the seed in my mind. So long before I'd finished my Iggy book, I really wanted to do one on Bowie and kind of look at the whole story from scratch. Well, Mick Ronson is really key to David Bowie's success. David had one hit with Space Oddity and was really something of a kind of one-hit wonder. He'd been written off by the whole record industry. And it was really meeting Mick Ronson that re-inspired him. It made him sort of start from scratch all over again. And they had a quite eventful relationship. David recorded Man Who Sold the World with him, and then Mick disappeared. It went back to Hull with the rest of the future Spiders. He's getting back together with Mick in the space of just a few weeks that really redefined David Bowie's sound. Mick had kind of honed his playing. And within a few weeks, they were doing BBC radio sessions, and really it was sounding like the David Bowie that we know of in the kind of Ziggy Stardust era. And Ronson, he wasn't just a guitarist, he was an arranger as well. He would run the band, but more than anything, he just had a unique guitar sound. He had a Les Paul with a Marshall stack, and had kind of worked on the whole Jeff Beck guitar sound, but Mick was much more of a melodicist. He put a lot of the kind of all the melodies and or the sub-melodies beneath all those Bowie songs. So Mick was really one of our greatest guitarists and an integral part of Bowie's success. David Bowie was a great guitar player, maybe not quite as good as he thinks he is. I mean, it's very interesting that after Bowie parted with Ronson, he recorded Rebel Rebel. And that's what we've seen as Bowie's great guitar moment. Well, in fact, when I was working on the book, I discovered it wasn't actually David playing that guitar. He'd come up with the riff. There's a guy called Alan Parker, really good guitarist who played with Blue Mink, played on the Serge Gainsbourg album Melody Nelson. He cleaned up that guitar riff and made it the riff we know, and he plays it in the studio. So why did Bowie take credit for it? I guess really it was to basically show that he was top dog, that he didn't really miss Mick Ronson. So that's a great David Bowie guitar moment that really never was. And he's never really acknowledged that it was Alan who played it. I spoke to Herbie Flowers, the bassist. He remembers Alan playing it. So that's a really good key discovery in the book. At the same time, to balance matters, it's got to be said that there are records like The Idiot that David cut with Iggy Pop, and there's a wonderful song called The Dum Dum Boys. It's got a really early kind of proto-metal guitar part on it, which is really, has been played a million times by a million kind of punk bands. And that's David Bowie. He's playing guitar on it. It's just a demo. He shoved it together in sort of 5 or 10 minutes. And because he wasn't bothered that it was a bit rough, it's really one of the greatest guitar parts on an Iggy Pop record. That's David Bowie, uncredited. When in Foyles on Charing Cross Road, it's one of London's oldest and most famous bookshops. And I'm certain it's part of David Bowie's cultural history as well, because this was where David used to hang out along the Charing Cross Road. Just opposite, he used to work in a guitar shop, which is probably Macari's on the other side of the road. Then we have Denmark Street, of course, and on Denmark Street we have the Gioconda. And it's at the Gioconda where David would hang out with Mark Bolan in his earliest days when he first formed a band. That's where he would also hang out with Stevie Marriott. David actually joined a band with Stevie Marriott that became the Small Faces, but they threw him out because they thought his songs were too derivative. Right along the street, there are loads of London landmarks. You have Regent Sound, which is the place where the Stones recorded their first album. A shop that's now Rossetti in the basement, that used to be a recording studio and a music publishing warehouse. That's where David used to work to earn pennies. So almost every shop along that road has got its own real part of musical history.
Hi everyone. If you look behind me, you'll see some of my guitars that I would use in everyday life to making a living as a guitar player. But what do we actually need to make the most stripped down electric guitar possible? Well, something called a diddley bow is made from some very raw materials. We need some wire to act as the string. Maybe a beer bottle, preferably Mexican and preferably empty. Some wood, a pickup, and one of these to make it. Now, I've never played one of these before, and it's going to sound horrendous, but let's just make a noise, eh? Plectrum, here we go. Yeah!
Okay, this one's from my new CD. It's called Bed of Roses. I neglected you, my love. All the things I should have said and done.
I've just been watching you sound check with the mandolin. Can you tell me something about that guitar?
It's the same as a Gretsch 6120, but a small version, right? I had a guy called Gordon Knight who's a wonderful. He makes some guitars. I think he makes Gibson 335 copies, but he makes beautiful mandolins and mandolas, which is slightly bigger and with the bottom E's reversed.
Oh yes,
at the bottom. Yeah, beautiful instrument, and it's irreplaceable because what he's done is he's made the strings slightly wider apart for guitarists.
All right, yeah.
So it's just a little easier to play. It's gig for number 52 this year, tonight, and we're just going into May now, so yeah, it's been a long, gruelling spell for me, and the Canadian leg, I was supporting Heart in Canada in February, March, and it was like winter, but a really bad winter, so you know, it's been hard, and it's just nice now. I've got a month to go in my studio.
Forever and a Day is one of my favourites, and we just spoke about the 12-string. The 12-string non-reverse Gibson Firebird.
That's what I use.
It's quite a very rare 60s guitar.
Yeah.
And I love the sound of that. But is there a favourite electric that you rely upon in your recordings, or is you just have a
I always
vast
tend to
collection
come back to. Well, I do have a reasonable collection, not vast. I have about 15, 16 guitars that I really love, and I would have trouble parting with any of them.
Right.
But I tend to come back to an old 1978 white Schecter Telecaster for a lot of recording. Yeah. Les Paul Jr., which is in the Gibson SG shape, but really early one. I love my Les Paul reissue, 59 reissue. I'd love an original, but they're just so silly money, aren't they? You know?
I saw you playing the Guild 12 string. Would that be the D55?
Yeah, the D55.
Yeah.
That was given to me by a guy who was sponsoring me with guitars, and it's just when he gave it to me, it had the front sort of bow like this, where that's characteristic of those Guilds, that the front pulls up over the years.
Mm-hmm.
And I took it to that guy who made the mandolin, Gordon Knight.
Yeah.
And he took the top off and flattened it down, and yeah, it's wonderful now.
It's a beautiful sounding guitar.
Yeah.